is the opportunity for him to gain? We've talked a bit about the billionaire minimum tax and just him speaking to the middle. Where are the opportunities right now for him to gain? Because it's, given where he is in the polls, he does have to, at least appeal to a wider swath of the population to have a real shot in 2024. I mean, are there any sort of signals that you saw out of the State of the Union as to where the priorities will be for the next year, winning priorities?
Look, there's going to be a showdown right now about spending versus raising the debt ceiling. How he comes out of that, I think, will be very instructive about whether or not there is a second half of the first term. He's laid down that he's not going to negotiate. At the same time, he's meeting with McCarthy and negotiating. At the same time, the polling shows that people want future spending breaks as part of the debt ceiling the debt ceiling lifting. So how is this going to come out? Maybe he's going to win and get a clean debt ceiling. Okay, that'd be a win. Maybe he'll negotiate and get something reasonable. That actually would be a bigger win for him because it would give some real substance to the idea that there's a Republican Congress now and he's going to make compromises, and that's going to be for the good of the country. The third possibility here is the whole thing's just going to blow up, and there's going to be shutdowns and everybody blaming everybody, and that's just a disaster for more or less everybody. I don't think there will be any real winners out of that one.
If you're a betting man, would you bet on one of those scenarios coming to pass?
I would bet on a compromise with some future, as opposed to past, spending restraints.
So we will get through this. Let me step back on a macro level. State of the Union addresses in general, are they as valuable now as they used to be? Have they always served the same purpose? I mean, let's just put this in perspective because it's a moment in time that I think a lot of people have come to see as an exercise in rhetoric.
Well, no, they're incredibly important. They are the Super Bowl of politics. They are one of the few opportunities that a president has to talk unfiltered to tens of millions of people. This president doesn't really talk much filtered.
He was better off script sometimes than he was on, don't you think?
It depends, Chuck Schumer is no longer the minority leader. He tends to make mistakes when he go off script. But sometimes he can, connect a little bit better when he's telling a story about his family. But in general, his team does not want him to go off script because that's where the mistakes will typically occur and where the foreign policy brouhahas will also occur. I think, though, that if you look at this, are states of the union important? In certain years, they are. What did he have to achieve? He had to show that he could be president again. He could run for a second term. He'd be effective with a Republican Congress. He had some future-oriented proposals, so there was a reason to keep him in office for the future. He had a justification. I need to finish the job. He tried to explain to people that he'd done a lot and that he wanted to keep going, and he wanted to get teachers a pay raise and students more tuition and parents more leave and all of these other things that he was just chomping at the bit to do. So I think it's from his political perspective, it was very important. And will it meet the test? Well, he's going to have to face some investigations here. And will those investigations reveal ties to his son's business or not? Will that cloud everything up? But from a purely political view, he did himself a lot of good. He made himself seem vibrant enough to run for a second term. And his people, and it appears that Joe Biden and everybody in the administration is eager for him to have that second term.